If you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Hi guys, it is Tuesday, January 8th, and it's 7:58 p.m. Eastern Time. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the Q posts that I missed. Not sure how I missed them, but I did. I missed some from the 6th and I missed yesterday's. So let's dive in. And also I wanted to mention that you may notice that the setup is a little bit different because my kitten, when I got up this morning, I remember thinking, oh, my webcam is on a tripod. Nah, he'd have to knock that tripod over to get it. Well, that's exactly what he did, and there was my webcam in pieces, none of which I recognized. So had to go out and get a new one, but I got a much better one, and so hopefully it will be better. I may have to just play around a little bit with where to put it and so forth. Also, my microphone is a little bit further away from me, so if you have trouble hearing or it sounds different than before, let me know. I can change that, and my next purchase will be some better lighting. So anyway, let's dive into this. Picking up from where I left off in the last Q video, we have this post, and this is a reference to actually an article that we already read in our Q related news about the Dershowitz secret emails about underage sex allegations that would put prominent people in handcuffs. We're not going to go out to it again because I did read it, but Q is making reference to that article and saying, get in line. Get in line. Yep. We're putting prominent people in handcuffs as well. So yeah, get in line. Q. So I like that. And we're going to go up to the next one, which is this. And it's a reference to a tweet by our good friend Maggie Haberman. Well, she's not our good friend, but we know her from the Podesta emails when they were seeking out her favors to be able to skew stories in the way that they wanted them to skewed to fit their narrative. So that is her claim to fame. She works for the New York Times, and here she's got an odd little, well, this is from Q, but we're going to go out and see her. Well, let's look at her tweet first, actually. There is no smoking on this train. If you're found smoking, we'll assume you're on fire and take the appropriate action, says the Amtrak conductor. Odd. That's an odd little tweet, don't you think? And underneath, Q responds and says, handler, conductor, smoking can be bad for your health. Read the warning label. Deboard train and walk away. Once in the tunnel, there is no going back. Q. Now, to me, I feel that Q is trying to deal with her, to make a deal with her. Look, Maggie, why don't you come and talk while you still can? Just get off the train, walk away, because there's going to come a time when this offer is not going to be on the table anymore. That's what I believe is happening here. And interesting. Let's go up to the next one. And Q provides not only the link that we just saw to her status, but two additional ones. So let's look at those first. People in White House sound as confused as everyone else about what happens after the president's EO, executive order, which McGahn was against him signing. There's interagency disagreement about what it means. Trump now essentially tunes his chief of staff out. Trump driving the train. So that's where the train allegory came from. And then here's the next one. OH on the Q train intercom. Now, who OH is, I don't know. If you know, please put it in the comments below. I have tried to twist my brain into all sorts of contortions trying to think of what it means, but I'm not sure. It's probably something that's so, once you see it and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't get that. That happens to me a lot. Anyway, OH on the Q train intercom. Attention passengers, the intercom phone is for emergencies only. It is not for asking the conductor questions. Interesting. So here she's calling Trump the conductor, and here she's saying on the Q train intercom, attention passengers, the phone is for emergencies only, not for asking the conductor questions. And again, not exactly sure what she's getting at here. She seems to be talking in code. And of course, her original one, there is no smoking on this train. If you're found smoking, we'll assume you're on fire and take the appropriate action, says the Amtrak conductor. So, interesting. Now, let's see what Q has to say about this. After mentioning these 3 tweets, he says, "A stone sits idle while the world around it evolves. Evolution, depending on the stage, can be deadly." Yeah, evolution can be deadly depending on what stage you are in evolution, because the bigger the fish, the big fish eat the small fish, and then the bear eats the fish, and what eats the bear? I don't know. Anyway, if you're high enough up on the food chain, doesn't things go better for you. But Q is saying, you're sitting there, Maggie, like a stone, while everything around you is evolving. But you're not high enough up on the food chain. You should be worried. That's how I read that. You need to be worried, Maggie. You're not that high up on the food chain. And personally, also, here we go, Q's wanting to make a deal. We can talk through code, or we can act through transparency. The choice is yours. However, the clock is ticking, and at a select point in time, that option will be expired. Regular service appointments should be made in order to maintain functionality. Now, I'm not exactly sure what Q is talking about here. Several things come to mind, but they would be guesses. But I do know that he's making her a deal. He's saying, look, Maggie, we can continue to act like children, talk through code, or you can come on in and we can sit down and have a conversation. The choice is yours. Now, you can come in and talk about this, or or you can not. But there will be a point in time when you're not going to have that option. It's going to be closed to you. There aren't going to be any deals for you. So it also makes me wonder, because he's talking about a stone sitting idle while the world around it evolves. Have other people around her talked? Is he saying, look, Maggie, you're not that high up on the food chain. The people around you, they've all been talking. Come on. We're not going to leave this open forever. Let's make a deal. That's what I think is happening here. All right, and then we get to this, which is very interesting. It is a news article on Fox News, and let's go there now. And Joe DiGenova, Cardinal James Comey, the man who destroyed the FBI. That's pretty scathing, isn't it, for Fox News? So, Wyatt Earp, Elliot Ness, J. Edgar Hoover, Inspector Clouseau, James Comey. The names reflect a continuum of greatness to farce and mediocrity. In the annals of U.S. law enforcement, no individual has reached the depths of disgrace as James Cardinal Comey. The Cardinal was a sobriquet FBI agents used to denigrate their leader. As Deputy Attorney General, he was called Drama Queen, known for his pomposity and self-regard. Comey cut a swath of arrogance unknown in either of those illustrious organizations. He was the cult of personality. He surrounded himself with sycophants, people dedicated to his promotion and their advancement. The Bureau and the public became the losers. James Comey politicized the FBI, America's premier law enforcement agency. It started on July 6, 2016, when he usurped the authority of Attorney General Loretta Lynch in violation of the Constitution, the law, and DOJ regulations. He destroyed Hillary's campaign when he unethically and unprofessionally described her conduct with pejorative words such as criminal, and then illegally exonerated her of crimes. One second here. President Obama should have fired him that day, but he did not. Why? Perhaps because he had knowledge of Hillary's avoidance of any protected email channels because he communicated with her on her private server using a pseudonym. Comey is a poser. He pretends to be Thomas Becket, but he is, in fact, the assassin Henry II. He claims in his memos he doesn't do sneaky things, leak or do Weasley things, yet in his interview with Fox News' Bret Baier, he pretended not to know what a leak is. The president performed a public service by firing him. He should have done it the day after his inauguration. The treachery revealed by Comey, Clapper, and Brennan requires accountability. That can only happen through a federal grand jury investigation headed by John W. Huber, the U.S. attorney in Utah who has been appointed to investigate the FISA criminality by the Obama FBI and DOJ. The evidence of illegal and unconstitutional abuse of law enforcement and intelligence community power and authority is clear. Grand jury subpoenas need to be issued. These individuals have stolen more than 15 months of a new president's tenure. They have thrown the country needlessly into spasms of doubt about the bona fides of the election. Cardinal Comey should get the first grand jury subpoena. That is awesome. And you know something? It shocks me a little that this is on Fox News. I know Fox News has been a lot more, open, but still, this is pretty scathing. Now, and of course, Q has pulled out the part that he wants us to focus on here. The treachery revealed by Comey, Clapper, and Brennan requires accountability. That can only happen through a federal grand jury investigation headed by John W. Huber, the U.S. attorney in Utah, who has been appointed to investigate the FISA criminality by the Obama FBI and DOJ. Q. So, pretty awesome stuff here. Now, we're getting into a little bit of strange stuff. Well, not strange for us, really. I'm very, very familiar with all this stuff, and probably you are too if you're awake. I would assume that you are, but here is the first one from January 7th, and Q is talking about mind control, and he points us in the direction of an article on The Sun. So let's go take a look at that now. Just because we can. All right, spy secrets. Truth about CIA's illegal MKUltra mind control experiments using drugs, hypnosis, and electronic devices revealed in sensational new documents officials hid for decades. Now, I remember, actually, I think I had pulled this out for one of my Q-related news, so it's interesting that Q has now hit on this. The records rewrite the history of the CIA's covert and illegal MKUltra project, according to researcher John Greenwald, Jr., who spent almost 20 years trying to obtain the documents. And I don't want that to play, so hopefully it won't. Yes, it will. All right. Disturbing details of secret mind control experiments carried out by the CIA have been revealed in newly released documents that officials have been trying to hide for decades. The new documents released under the Freedom of Information Act reveal how the CIA experimented on both human and animals using drugs, hypnosis, and electronic devices as part of the top secret and illegal mind control project MKUltra. Shockingly, the swaths of information still missing or redacted in the records could mean the CIA is still carrying out the experiments to this day, according to experts. One document details how the CIA planned to drug criminals awaiting trial held in a prison hospital ward in a bid to develop improved techniques in drug interrogation. Another document details the CIA's interest in developing ways to cause amnesia in humans using experiments, no matter how weird, inconclusive, or unusual. It goes on to detail how they were looking to find ways of developing hypnotic speaking techniques which would control the minds of large audiences and heighten group susceptibility. Experiments which were too dangerous, too shocking, too unusual for routine testing would be of interest to us, the memo from 1956 reads. This document, this document details plans to drug inmates at a prison hospital, then interrogate them. The records also detail mind control experiments on dogs, cats, and mice with a cocktail of drugs and by implanting electronic devices, most likely as a precursor to human experiments. They also researched electric fish who can zap each other with electricity in a bid to create a super soldier who would do the exact same thing. The records were obtained by researcher John Greenswald Jr., who published them last week on his website, The Black Vault. John, 37, from Gastaic, California, told Sun Online he has been fighting since 1999 to get the CIA to hand over the documents and says they completely rewrite the history of the controversial project. John said, "Are the CIA still trying to cover up projects that took place in the 50s and 60s? In my opinion, yes. They are trying to cover it up, and that is evidenced not just by what I went through to get the documents, but the documents themselves. So you'll see through these documents that they were doing a lot of different types of research with drugs on cats and dogs and other animals. They were implanting electronic devices into animals to see whether electronic impulses can essentially control the brain." If you control and master that type of technology with cats and dogs, you're very close to doing that with humans. And so this is a kind of a very interesting look into the beginning days of the research. There's also one document that specifically breaks down multiple project proposals, but the majority of project names on the document are redacted. That means that whatever these projects were, they won't even tell you the name of the project, let alone what they were doing. It shows that the entire story is not yet out, which is contrary to what the CIA wants us to believe. And I know in Canada, we were doing the same type of experiments here in Canada, and we were doing them for the CIA, being paid by the CIA to do these. Most of them took place in Montreal, but we were doing the same type, and actually there have been people that have won awards of money for the damage that was done during these experiments. So they definitely happened and are probably still happening. And I don't think that Q would be pointing this out if they were not still happening. Anyway, MKUltra was the code name for a top secret and illegal program of human experiments, which the CIA carried out in the early 50s until it was officially halted in 1973. The aim of the project was to identify and develop mind-controlled drugs and procedures to be used in interrogations and torture in a bid to force confessions and control behavior. Although the CIA admitted to running the covert operation during congressional hearings in the 70s, they claim that all records relating to it had been destroyed. John's battle for information started in 1999 when he requested the only documents relating to MKUltra that the CIA said had not been destroyed, 30,000 pages of financial records. The CIA finally provided John with the 30,000 pages on a CD-ROM in 2004, which they claimed were a full and complete set of records related to the project. It wasn't until 2016 that a fellow researcher realized a staggering 4,358 pages, which the CIA claimed were on the CD, were actually missing, and John began his fight to have the missing records released. Although the CIA initially claimed John was wrong and fought him hard, he finally received 2 separate boxes of records in the past month. But most worrying, John says, is that there is still at least 1,245 pages missing, which could contain even more disturbing details. He believes the missing information may relate to top secret mind control projects, which are still taking place. Now, this, as I recall, is a very, very long article, and it is. So we're going to stop there because I think we've gotten the gist of what Q wants us to know from this, and also we have gone over it in the past. So let's go back to Q. And he says, and I think this is very interesting, program development ongoing under offshore, not domestic, tangent agency. Well, he's asking the question, but I don't think he is asking the question. I think he's letting us know that the program development is ongoing. It's offshore somewhere so it's not domestically offshore. It's offshore and a tangent agency. Not sure exactly what that would be, but it makes me wonder about all these places that have islands, like Epstein Island, and which is Little St. James, and Sir Richard Branson has his own island. So, and I know that there are others that have their own islands as well, and who knows what's happening there. So, program development offshore, covert funding, well, obviously it would have to be covert funding because they can't just put that in a regular fiscal budget, can they? Human experimentation, 6 million. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So yeah, of course it's covert funding. Probably some of these things where they say they're going to send stuff to foreign aid, and we know that a lot of that ends up in black ops and it ends up laundered and so forth. So that's probably where they're getting some of this funding. Animals to humans, they started off with animals, but we know it's not going to stop with animals. They're not concerned with controlling animals. They're concerned with controlling people. So of course, eventually it's going to lead to humans, and obviously it already has. Humans, 1988. So Q is telling us they started in 1988 with humans. 71% average success rate. Now that's back in 1988. Wow. Targeted mental criteria designated as, so obviously they're targeting certain types of people, right? Probably people that they think might be more susceptible to that type of control. Mental institutions and therapists, program specialists, cocktail regimen, 4 times daily, brain intercept administered by, and then he has hint. So they're, and what he's also saying is a lot of these people that are doing this are therapists, mental institutions, because they have access to people. They have that sort of access to people, and you're not going to start questioning much because you're thinking, okay, well, I'm clinically depressed and I need to take this drug cocktail to whatever, and and interestingly enough, when you look at all the mass shooters, what is it that they all have in common? They've all seen a psychiatrist. They're all on psychotropic medication, right? So anyway, let's go and look at the next link that Q is wanting us to look at. And this is from the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. Converting brain signals into action. Today, 8 million Americans are living with paralysis or have lost limbs. Many could benefit from technologies that would help them carry out daily activities, but high-tech prosthetics or other such devices are not always sufficient to meet these needs, particularly for those who are paralyzed. To improve the quality of life for these individuals, NCATS-supported investigators at Pitt are exploring 2 different computerized chips that convert brain signals into action simply through the patient's thinking about that action. Gee, what could go wrong? The problem has always been the control of the prosthetic by someone with limited ability to move, said Michael Boninger, MD, professor and chair of the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at the Pitt School of Medicine. Boninger and Andrew Schwartz, PhD, a professor of neurobiology at the medical school, have built a collaborative research program to develop brain-computer interface devices that interpret the brain's still intact command abilities and convey them to high-tech prosthetics and assistive devices. Now, it sounds wonderful. it really does sound wonderful. But obviously, Q is telling us if they have this ability already, you know, do you think possibly they're using some of this for nefarious purposes? Well, certainly. There is really there is a really collaborative group of researchers at Pitt. Said Boininger. It's a critical mass supported by the Clinical and Translational Science Institute. The university's CTSI is one of about 60 research institutions supported by NCATS Clinical and Translational Science Awards. CTSA program, which aims to move scientific innovations into clinical practice. Currently, the research team is working in parallel on two devices with unique features. One of these, the microencephalocardiogram, oh gosh, electrocortiograph. Okay, well, it's one of those things. Yeah, one of those things right there. Hang on, I got to make this bigger. I'm struggling to read this. And now I've lost my work. Anyway, let's jump down here. Our first phone call was to the CTSI, said Boininger. Before each phase of research into the micro ECOG grid, the collaborators met with regulatory experts at the CTSI for guidance on the requirements for human research. Wang added, I think that without their help, it would have been a much tougher route to take and may not have happened. So let's see what else is down here. What is Q? Our work is a great example of translational research that accomplishes things that we're not going to get from a pill, Boininger said. Support of bioengineering research is an absolute critical part of the CTSI program. All right, and let's go back to Q. So, Q is saying, after reading that, WIA military personnel targets of the program, well, and those with post-traumatic stress disorder, plus, so military personnel, those with post-traumatic stress disorder, clandestine black ops, zero affiliation, non-stick, something out of a movie, fiction, the whole is deep. Q. I have a feeling that there's going to be more of this coming out, and I have a feeling that Q is going to start educating us more on this because there's only so much out there, and a lot of it is supposition and hearsay about people that have been, people like Kathy O'Brien who have been programmed and so forth, have been MK Ultra slaves. So I think that there's probably a whole lot more out there to know, and I think that Q is going to begin to show us where to look. That's what I personally feel, because I think that an understanding of this is going to be critical in understanding some of the charges down the road and, so forth. So I think some of this is going to start coming out into the public eye. At least that's what I feel. All right, and let's go up here. And Q is giving us 3 tweets by Donald Trump. And let's look at what those 3 tweets are. Here's the first one. With all of the success that our country is having, including the just released jobs numbers, which are off the charts, the fake news and totally dishonest media concerning me and my presidency has never been worse. Many have become crazed lunatics who have given up on the truth. And his next one. The fake news will knowingly lie and demean in order to make the tremendous success of the Trump administration and me look as bad as possible. They use non-existent sources and write stories that are total fiction. Our country is doing so well, yet this is a sad day in America. And all of these are from yesterday, starting very early in the morning. He started tweeting. And here is the next one. The fake news media in our country is the real opposition party. It is truly the enemy of the people. We must bring honesty back to journalism and reporting. So let's look at what Q has to say about these 3 tweets. Well, he is bringing pulling out the parts that he wants us to pay attention to. With all of the success that our country is having, including the just released job numbers, which are off the charts, the fake news and totally dishonest media concerning me and my presidency has never been worse. Many have become crazed lunatics who have given up on the truth. The fake news will knowingly lie and demean in order to make the tremendous success of the Trump administration and me look as bad as possible. They use non-existent sources and write stories that are total fiction. Our country is doing so well, yet this is a sad day in America. The fake news media in our country is the real opposition party. It is truly the enemy of the people. We must bring honesty back to journalism and reporting. Compare and contrast. Ring a bell? Think drop yesterday. New narrative created. Refusal to provide coverage of successes. Why is this important? Sometimes making a connection leads to uncovering. Now, when he says think about yesterday, I know that there has been a lot of talk about not covering Trump's State of the Union address, and or whatever he has to say to the nation tonight. There was a lot of back and forth about that. But I don't know, when I look back at the drop from the day before, I'm not sure exactly what is he talking about. Is he talking about Maggie Haberman? Because here, she said people in the White House sound as confused as everybody else about what happened after the president's EO. And is he saying that after this, the new narrative that they're going with is let's just not cover any successes. Let's just, any success we don't cover, we don't give them any press. I guess that's what Q is saying. Because I really can't apply it to anything else but that. But if you guys have any different opinions or thoughts on this, please put it in the comments below. Because I know I comb through them, and I know many of you do as well. So, and some of you make me laugh so hard. Okay, so let's go back up here and just be sure that we understand what he said. Compare and contrast, ring a bell. Think drop yesterday. New narrative creative. Refusal to provide coverage of successes. Why is this important? Sometimes making a connection leads to uncovering. I don't feel like I've got the full revelation of what he is trying to say here, except that this is the new narrative that they want to go forward with now, is to just let's not even, the successes, let's not pay attention. But anytime he screws up or anytime we can make him look bad, we'll jump on that. But anyway, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this. I would love to hear it. And here we go. We're up to this, and Q is making reference to an earlier tweet or an earlier drop here from January 6th, and I've made it a little bit bigger so we can read it here. Remember when Democrats and the fake news media plus Hollywood, pushed mass fear that POTUS would start World War III regarding North Korea? Yep, I remember that. I remember it pretty well. POTUS, peace on the Korean Peninsula, no further missile tests or uranium enrichment, new narrative created, refusal to provide coverage of successes. Yeah, okay, so that's what he's talking about. This is the one he's talking about then. They're just not gonna cover it. They're not gonna cover any successes that he does, or that he, any success he has at all. Remember when Democrats and the fake news media plus Fakewood pushed a stock market collapse if POTUS was elected? I remember that too. POTUS E plus policies, largest gains recorded in markets history, new narrative created, refusal to provide coverage of successes. Use Fed to increase rates to counter growth and project POTUS blame, which is exactly what they did. That's exactly what they're doing. Remember when Democrats and the fake news media plus Fakewood pushed complete economic collapse if POTUS was elected? Yep. POTUS E plus policies, lowest unemployment records in history, plus record jobs, GDP growth, new narrative created, refusal to provide coverage of successes. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Deploy and use racism, sexism, and every other ism to counter potential black Hispanic population support. Why do Democrats and the fake news media plus Fakewood continually push the impeach narrative if impeachment requires 2/3 Senate vote to enact? Odds of that? Slim to none. In fact, I would say the odds are astronomically against such a thing occurring because they're not going to get 2/3 of the Senate. Do they push this fake narrative to project a supposed supportable with evidence wrongdoing to their base confirmation bias? Yes. Accusations never supported by facts? No, none of their accusations are ever supported by fact. That doesn't seem to bother them. Groupthink. The list goes on and on. And then we have these tweets by Donald Trump that Q has included. The fake news will knowingly lie and demean in order to make the tremendous success of the Trump administration and me look as bad as possible. They use non-existent sources and write stories that are total fiction. Our country is doing so well, yet this is a sad day in America. So he's basically just calling them out. Look, you know what? I know you're never going to give me the accolades that are due. I know you're never going to acknowledge the success that this presidency has been, but, you know, I think that this is brilliant too, that he uses Twitter, because this will be included in the public record. This will be archived as official communication from the president forever. With all the success that our country is having, including the just released, okay, this is, we've read this before, so Q is making us aware of these tweets by Donald Trump again, and saying, read the pics related together. So mirrory. I like that word. It's not really a word, but I like it. And if, Shakespeare can make up 17,000 words, or was it 14,000 words? He made up a whole bunch of words. Then so can Q. So it's so mirrory. A, U for Q. Now, this I don't understand. A, U for Q. Does anyone know what that means? I've tried all sorts of mental gymnastics there, and I don't know what that means. A, U for Q. And then Q adds here, the reason we are here, however, this is incomplete and missing the third tweet. The reason why we are here, however, this is incomplete and missing the third tweet. I don't know what he means there. Let me see who this is. Let me see here. Okay, this is Q from January 6th that he's making reference to, and this is being posted by an Anon. And Q is posting the Anons, and this is where the Anons post leaves off, and this is Q. Okay, A, U for Q. So this was meant for Q, and then he's saying the reason why we are here. However, this is incomplete and missing the third tweet, Q. So let's go on. And this, when we look at it, is just telling us what we already know, but I will show you. It says, imagine that. What a coincidence. Q. Because we were talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg the other day, and now, of course, U.S. top courts, Ginsburg misses oral arguments again. Ruth Bader Ginsburg absent from Supreme Court bench for second day in a row. Ginsburg misses Supreme Court arguments for first time. So, yeah. We get the gist. And Q's saying, look at that. What a coincidence. Imagine that. And then there is this, and we're not going to go out to this actual news article, but it says Ginsburg missing Supreme Court argument for first time. This was brought to the board by an Anon, and beneath it, this Anon said, morning, Q. And Q responds, first time in more than 25 years, talking about Ginsburg missing the opening arguments. He's saying first time in more than 25 years. And then Q says, morning, Patriot, Q. Well, actually now it's 2 days in a row. So I'm thinking that we probably need to see some proof of life at this point, don't you think? That's what I'm thinking. I'm just wondering if she has not passed on and they are not saying anything because they're going to try and draw this out for a while, maybe have some of her law clerks do some work. Don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Anyway, that is it for the Q drops. It brings us up to date unless Q has been out there posting. And if he has, I will try to bring those to you as well. Anyway, that is it for this evening. I wish you all a good, happy night, good night's sleep. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and I will talk to you guys real soon. Thanks so much for listening.